Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Nice to see you all this
Good to see
morning.
you.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning. So we have quite a few RSVPs this morning. So we'll give folks just a couple minutes to get on. And is it Sherry or Cherry? Oops, you're muted.
It's Sherry.
Sherry.
Sherry as an SH, Sherry.
Okay, not the fruit.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Here. So, okay, so Susan's on the line. She says she doesn't have a mic, but she's listening. So I want to encourage anybody, when we get started in a minute, I have a few questions to start with our panelists and then take questions from folks. If you have a question, you can just pop it right in the chat, or you can wave like a crazy person and I'll just call on you. That'll be fine too. Like I said, we have quite a few RSVPs for this event, so I think it's a topic that people are really interested in. So thank you all for being here this morning. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing okay? There's a lot going on in our world right now, so I know a lot of folks feeling pretty heavy and just a lot to digest. So hopefully we can talk about some childcare solutions and take a little bit of worry off of people's minds with regard to that, at least. So, Nicole, are your kids wrapped up the school year? Did you finish up kindergarten?
They have
like 2 more days.
2 days left. So almost done.
Yeah.
Are your kiddos done for the year?
I mean, there's still a few things, but yesterday was the actual kindergarten like promotion ceremony, and then 4th grade, I think they're doing a virtual field trip today. So, and then tomorrow we return devices, and that's it. Summer break. So, yeah. Okay, well, I am recording this so that if anybody jumps in later, they can always hear this. But I feel like we have a lot to talk about, so we can go ahead and get started. I want to start by thanking you all for joining me this morning. I have a feeling we'll get some more folks. Like I said, we had quite a few RSVPs, so actually maybe we'll wait just like another 30 seconds just to give people a chance to pop in. Okay, so why don't we first start by having Julie, Sherry, and Matt just introduce yourselves, and we'll start with Julie. You can just introduce yourself, the name of your business or the organization you represent, and the age of the kids that you provide care for, and then your current operations. Are you open? Are you closed? Are you about to open? Kind of what's going on with that. We'll start with Julie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Lowen. I'm the president and CEO of Children's Paradise. We've been open the entire time. Initially, we thought we would close. However, our families kind of freaked out because we are the backbone of our families, making sure that they're okay. And I would say probably 350 out of the 1,200 families we serve did not have food for even a week, let alone enough to close down for 2 to 4 weeks. So what we did is we basically emptied out our refrigerators and sent everything home with them on Friday. And then it was hilarious because that weekend we had to go get everything else because we assumed everybody would be back on Monday. So we were Snapchatted buying 87 gallons of milk instead of toilet paper, which was kind of funny. And the guys that were doing that, they were just like, oh, I can't believe that. People were Snapchatting me. So we basically just came back to work the following week and then did everything that we could to figure out, okay, what is this? What do we have to do? And how can we be clean and ready? So one of the things was the cutting of our ratios. We now had 10 kids in a classroom versus the 24 that we normally ran with 3 teachers. We now had 10 kids with 2 teachers. So that was interesting. We did open up some pop-up sites. We opened up some extra spaces in Escondido, which in fact are leading to a new center. We're actually going to open a new center at that location. We're buying that piece of property. It's a pretty cool 3.7 acres in Escondido. So we're super excited about that. We just went to town trying to make sure that we were ready and that parents could, be comfortable about what we were doing. We've been working with Faith Lutheran. That's our newest site. And so we've been working with them to do a food drive on the 2nd and the 4th Friday, and that's been really successful. We just picked up a pallet of boxes yesterday and 370 loaves of bread on Thursday, and it's just been kind of like that. So,
Julie, what ages? For people who don't know, what ages do you serve?
Okay, so we are a hybrid center that takes all kinds of funding. We have about 17 different types of funding that we participate in, and we care for children from 6 weeks of age all the way through 12 years old. We have a really strong AM/PM program with summer camps, winter camps, spring break camps, tutoring after school, things like that. And we serve about 1,200 families. We've got another 400 spaces. A center opening in Carlsbad should be December, January, and then the new Escondido site should open around September.
Awesome. So you have a lot going on. Let's pop over to Sherry with Vista Unified AM/PM, and let's hear a little bit. I know my peer group, we have a lot of school-aged kids, and I think we're all anxious to hear what's going on with AM/PM and on the campuses.
So we are, so Sherry Borger, I'm the program manager for the AM/PM program. We serve the kindergarten through 5th grade, and at almost all of the elementary schools. This summer, though, during school year, this summer we are opening starting next week at 2 of our sites, at our Breeze Hill and the Leadership Academy, Temple Heights. Limited because of, we're used to having a 20-to-1 ratio and sharing space and doing all that good stuff. But we will be at Breeze Hill and the Leadership Academy. We will have 60. We have 60 openings at each site. However, we're almost full, to be honest. We just opened registration last week and limited space left. We are going to be at, the classrooms are a 12-to-1 ratio. We're basically using the whole entire school because each classroom has one group of kids with the staff that go to that. They have their designated playground area, designated eating area. So those are the biggest changes that we're making to allow for that social distancing, and we will not allow anybody on the campus. That is one of the biggest changes. We're doing curbside pickup, like most places are, curbside pickup and drop off, and not allowing anybody to come on campus except for the children and the staff. So.
Got it. Okay, and so we're going to get to fall when I come back around to you because I want to hear what's going on for that. So Matt, good morning. Thank you for joining us from Boys and Girls Club Vista. Tell us a little bit about what's happening at your organization, please.
Sure. Matt Kamaris, President and CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Vista. We've been open in some capacity since school has closed. For the first few weeks, we were helping Vista Unified with the food distribution program. And we're still doing a little bit, we're doing it on our own now, so we're giving out food from Costco and Sprouts to club member families. So if you know any club member families in need, we've got that dialed. Since May 4th, we've been running an emergency daycare program for kids in kindergarten through 8th grade. We expect this model most likely will be something we're doing through the summer until we move to the next stage. Essentially, our ratios are 9-to-1, hand washing, thermometer checks. We keep the same kids with the same staff throughout the day, so we're not intermingling with each other. Only staff and kids are allowed in. It's definitely a culture shock for us. We have a 20,000 square foot facility, but we basically chopped that in half. So we'll be lucky with if restrictions are lifted to serve about 80 kids a day here. We do have openings right now. We've got about 40 kids here currently.
Thank you so much. So you all started to kind of allude to it, but my next big question, and I know that on the minds of lots of parents I know, is just what's the experience like for the kiddos at the facility? I know that there are questions about, are masks required? Can they play outside? You know, I think there was some kind of rumors going around social media that when school returns, kids are going to sit and it's going to feel like a prison environment. So can you share a little bit about the experience, and we'll go to Sherry first, about what it's like to spend, or what you expect it to be, because you're opening Wednesday, the experience to be for the kids, because I think parents want to know what's happening with their kids while they're there.
Well, I think it'll be different. It'll be adjustment because you have to have the social distancing, but we do have it planned out where modified many of the activities that they do, that'll be just that instead of playing together, they'll play alongside each other. And yes, we do have the classrooms set up so they each have their assigned area. They each have their own equipment and supplies that they will use, but they will go outside. They've modified the staff have already modified all kinds of outside activities that they normally would do together that they're now going to have to do at a distance. They will, I mean, our schedule is broken up to do both inside and outside pretty evenly because I think they're going to need that. And that's just us thinking. I'm sure Matt and Julie know better than us at this point, but we're just thinking they're going to need that break and will want the ability to have both. But the staff have worked hard to have both of doing things as a group at a social distance, but also allowing, again, that individual opportunity to play and learn and do the activities available.
Thank you. And so I know Julie's been, like she mentioned, has been open this whole time. And I know it's different depending on the age of the kiddos, but maybe you could elaborate, Julie, about the experience for your students that are in your facilities. I've seen some photos. It looks like they're having a pretty good time. So tell us a little bit about their experience there.
So for preschool, face masks are not required. So our kids are not wearing face masks. Our teachers are not wearing them unless they're preparing food. We are having our food service team wear the face mask just to make sure that, you know, we're as healthy and safe as possible. In preschool, social distancing is a myth. So that's not something that we're even trying to enforce. But what we've done is we've taught the children how to help themselves. So we put together a system called the Caring Series. It has literally a checklist for teachers to follow of everything they have to do during the day. And then we put little checklists for the kids to follow with their fingers. So it's amazing. Like, they've got block play. They're in their groups of 10. We haven't gone to the 12 yet, although we do have a waiver to go to 12. But they're in their groups of 10, and they know that it's time to sanitize the blocks. And they'll go get the cloth, and they'll go over and they'll wash the blocks, and they'll wash the shelves. They're amazing at washing their hands. We did the Germs Are Not for Sharing book, and we did the experiment where you put the pepper in a bowl and you stick their finger in, and pepper sticks to their finger, and then you stick their finger in soap, and you stick their finger in the bowl, and the pepper runs away. And so they know that. In fact, they've got that in their little individual invitations to play. And so they show each other how that works all the time. So preschool is all about hands-on learning. And so helping them to be active participants in the environment to keep it clean, healthy, and safe. And they understand how germs are spread and what they're supposed to do. So it's pretty cool. We do go outside in separate areas, but as a group, we don't try to distance them from each other. They are definitely playing together, working together, and having a ball. We've got a robust, and this is the thing that's surprising to us, a robust home-based services. So we literally have people from the community that are driving by, picking up a learning at home kit, watching the video, getting the lesson plan, signing up for our lesson plan kit, and that's been incredibly popular.
Thank
so
you.
Our learning at home is something that'll happen even afterward because parents loved it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing. We are having a ball. We have had a lot of fun.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. So Matt, what about at the Boys and Girls Club? What's that experience like for those kids? Especially, I mean, I've been in your facility, like last school year and the year before. Definitely not easily social distancing there. There's just kids everywhere having a great time. So how has that experience changed now that you're have been open?
Yeah, our current ratios are 9 to 1, and with 40 kids, so we've got about 5 program staff for 40 kids. So we're definitely getting to know the kids quite a bit more than we did in years past. So that's been a good thing. We are having them wear masks, but only outside. Staff need to wear the mask the entire time. We've kind of had to modify instruction, so we're doing, we reposition all the furniture, program spaces, but we're doing a lot of art projects, STEM activities, individual fitness programs. We're doing some karate, some baseball, but they're using the same equipment, and we're sanitizing after use. So it's a lot different, but you know, it's great in that they're getting to know the staff a lot better. We're building that sense of belonging and competency, because these kids are really struggling right now, not only with just missing, you know, the last part of the school year and all these new rules, but you know, they're going to need some help in terms of just the trauma that they've been through and that people are dealing with right now. And that's something I think we all have an opportunity to build upon.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think it's important. You know, our kids are so strong and resilient. I can't believe the strength I've seen in the kids from all ages. I mean, when you think about our students that are graduating high school and just what they've gone through in their lives with, you know, being born after 9/11, school shootings, now they're graduating among a global pandemic, and you know, a lot of social questions in our world. And so, you know, it's definitely important to address that trauma and the emotional component of that. So I appreciate you saying that. I want to talk a little bit about fall. So I think, you know, as parents are returning to work, I know this has come up a number of times in my own peer group, and among some of the businesses, when we call our businesses and ask them, you know, what concerns you about reopening, in addition to being safe and having PPE, and do I take my employees' temperature? They ask, can my employees return to work? Do they have the resources that they need and the childcare that they need to return to work? And that's a huge component for our economy. If we don't have employees returning to work, then we don't have businesses that are open, and then we don't have ways to spend money, and then it's just a trickle from there. So in the fall, when school returns in some capacity, and we'll hear from our assembly member in just a bit about the education budget and maybe some sneak peeks into what might be happening at the state level for the fall. I'd like to hear about the plans that you're making for when students hopefully do return to school, and whether that's a hybrid option, whether that's in campus all the time, whether it's a virtual thing. What kinds of services do you anticipate for those school age kids as we return? You know, a lot of parents, they only work when their kids are in school. And so, so that's a big question. So maybe we'll start with you, Matt.
We're kind of looking at 2 different models. One is we might be doing day camps all school year long. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably be open from 7 a.m. till 6:30 p.m. I could see us serving 2 different groups of kids, you know, with probably a hybrid model of kids going to school 2 days a week. And so we alternate with the kids we're serving there, either at our main site or at the schools themselves. Although I think the school district's going to be struggling for facility space themselves, so I don't know how that's all going to look like. So that the day camp model is the one thing, one area we're looking at. The other would be if they're going to school 5 days a week, we'll continue with our regular after-school programming at the main site, and continue offering services to the schools, providing outreach in that capacity. But the good thing about us starting early was it's prepared us to explore these options and kind of take a step back, gain perspective on what we're doing, and actually strengthen some of our programming.
What about you, Julie? I know right now you're focused really on the preschool kiddos, but when you return to school, do you anticipate still providing transportation services? And do you have a plan for that yet, or are you still waiting to hear from the school district what's going on?
Yeah, so we actually have been homeschooling about 40 school-age children per site. We have 5 locations across North County open right now. And so we have had classes that we repurposed into those 5 to 12-year-old groups. And we've had our teachers working to make sure that they get their online learning done. And then what we've done is we've augmented those lessons with hands-on activities. So if it was science, we had a hands-on activity that demonstrated and extended the learning for them. So in the fall, we're anticipating, just like Matt said, kind of a mixed bag. And so we've repurposed these spaces. They will remain school-age spaces. They're normally our part-day preschool classrooms. And if transportation is necessary, we have put together the caring series for our buses, so we know exactly how we're going to make sure that those are clean and sanitized in between each group of children. We know exactly kind of how they're going to ride on the bus, what we're going to be doing. If they're from mixed groups, we'll most likely wear masks on the bus so that you've got a little bit of extra protection. We actually did get the N95 masks so that they were effective for our kids riding the bus. Those are going to be a little tricky because those are difficult to get. So, a couple of questions like that we're looking to have answered. But I would say we're kind of, we've got to be almost like Gumby. We've got to be really flexible and basically say whatever the district decide to do, our job is to support children that are coming to and from school, and our job is to get children ready to go to school. So ultimately, as they make a move, we will make a move in response to support the work that they do. That's our job.
Great, thank you. So Sherry, what about you? I know, I was on a call last week with Dr. Doyle, and he was updating the group and our education committee about kind of what's happening, planning for fall, not necessarily what will happen exactly in fall, but how can we plan for fall? Because there's still so many questions. What will be allowed? I know there was a parent survey that went out about what kinds of models are parents most comfortable with regard to returning to school in the fall. So as a site-based, I'm just curious how because in the summer, if you can do, 2 sites at 60 kids, that's only 120 kids. And our district has, 20,000 students. Yeah. I mean, obviously not all of those are K-5. I don't know the numbers of that, but how will you be able to meet the demand for the folks that utilize the AMPM programs on campuses?
And that is the struggle we're working with right now, because we really are used to having anywhere from 150 to 250 kids at each school site. We're at 13 elementary schools. We are working hard to figure out how we're going to be able to serve as many of those kids as we can. And at this point, it's difficult because of the required ratio of 12-to-1, and you still have to have the stable classrooms. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. With those, if that's still going to be, we're planning for that. We're planning that that's just the way it's going to be. So we're trying to figure out some new solutions, and even having to partner and figure out with community things to do, because we won't be able to, even if we do full day and part-time, there's not enough facilities to.
Right.
So it just depends. It'll depend greatly on the model that they end up choosing, the school district, and we'll service as the best we can and as much as we can. But we do have, the facilities is the biggest problem, and staffing, always getting staff is always a difficult thing, but.
Well, absolutely. And especially if your staff members also have kiddos, like if you're, for me, my husband's a teacher. He's a teacher at Guahomie Park Academy. So we're trying to find out, okay, is he going to be in class every day, in class every other day, in class every other week? So then how will our kids fit into that? And then all of that will be back to me as the person with the most potential flexibility to provide the childcare. And that kind of gets me to my next point, which is the moms are on the hook. So how can the chamber, how can we partner with you? How can we support our families, our employees, and our employers by, how can we help? I mean, obviously facilities is an issue. Engaging other folks, like I asked the city of Vista, years ago when I first came to work at the city of Vista years ago, I was in the rec department, and we had camps year round because there was year round school. And so asking the city of Vista, are you going to start a camp program? You have a number of facilities, or are you going to offer your facilities to your partners? You know, that conversation was a question that I asked, and it, you know, haven't gotten any real answers for that yet, but I think they're thinking about those things. So, you know, how can we help at the chamber? Can we help have more conversations? Can we help connect employers with your resources? Because you obviously have demand. That's not an issue. It's just the supply. So if you have any suggestions, you know, I'm putting on the spot. You don't have to tell me right this second, but if there's something you can think of that we can do to support you and to support our employers and our families and moms, because I've even heard from some friends who are teachers in the district that depending on what happens with their schedule at work, they may or may not return to work because their child may not thrive in the environment that's required, and they just can't do that. And it's not worth the childcare. You know, they were a teacher, they didn't have to have childcare. Now they will have to pay for childcare. And so financially it doesn't make sense. So there's so many questions, and we want to help be a connector. And so if there's something that you think we can do to help, let me know. So with that, I'll let you respond to that if you'd like, anybody who'd like to. And then I'd love to, we have about 5 minutes, and then we'll hear from our assembly member, because I'd love to hear what's happening at the state level.
So what Children's Paradise has been doing over the years, childcare was a crisis before this happened. Spaces were few before this happened. So we have been aggressively opening new spaces, aggressively remodeling facilities, you know, one at a time as we've been able to do it. But because we knew that, you know, childcare was an issue and there needed to be more high quality childcare. I think there are a variety of facilities in Vista that could be repurposed. I think as a community, we should work as a team to see those repurposed and jointly shared. I think that each of us have expertise and areas of expertise that we can bring to the table to make sure that we're serving children and families in our community appropriately. I think for sure, childcare has got to retrieve its voice. I think for so long, large agencies have represented childcare, and this is what childcare thinks, when in fact, it is not at all what childcare providers think. And I think that we have got to retrieve our voice and start speaking for ourselves so that the millions of dollars our county, our cities, and our state assigned to childcare actually reach the classroom floor of a childcare center or of a school age program at a district or of a Boys and Girls Club. I think that, you know, bonding together as those of us who are physically doing the work and kind of, you know, working as a team. I think I've always been a teamwork person. I think that we're stronger when we work together as a team to start, you know, resolving problems. It makes no sense if I'm working on the same problem the Boys and Girls Club is working on, and we get a whole lot of that and not a lot of something else that's really necessary. So I think, you know, that collaborative approach that says, okay, who's doing what? Who's got, you know, at Children's Paradise, we're spectacular at preschool. We're really good at school age, you know, but who's spectacular at school age? Or how can we all be spectacular together? And I think that that's kind of where we are. We think that the chamber can serve as a pivot point to bring people together to have real conversations that kind of cut out, honestly, large agencies and bring the conversation down to the provider level so that what we actually need is what the funding is sent to, rather than what those who are constantly advocating for funding want. All goes to their organizations. We think we help childcare, and in fact, that money never reaches the classroom, never reaches a childcare provider, and our staff are perpetually underpaid.
Thank you, Julie. Sherry or Matt, do you have anything to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Julie nailed it perfectly. We definitely need to work more together instead of in silos. And how the chamber might help would be maybe we could actually go to the actual businesses in the business park. There's some facility space there. We can help the businesses there by bringing our services over to that part of town and other parts of town as well. But it's definitely time. We all need to step up to this challenge, and because the need is great and it's growing by the day.
Thank you. Sherry, go ahead, Nicole. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, just real quickly, isn't half of this beautiful city hall building that we have completely empty right now? How is this not being repurposed to help us with this serious issue?
So the City Hall facility, I don't know what.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, I cut out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying. So I think I'm not certain about the percentage of City Hall that's vacant. I know that the downstairs area that used to be the finance department was rented to a mortgage company, and now the Ronconi office is actually there. So that was the area that was available for lease, and they've leased that out. There is space in the Morris Vance room. I don't know. I would like to engage the city more on this conversation. I also invited the YMCA to, I will say I did not invite the city to participate this morning. That was an oversight. But I did invite the YMCA, and I'd like to have more conversations, and maybe we could have, like a little subcommittee of our ed committee work on these issues, working together. But definitely the city should be engaged. I've brought this up in a couple of places. One, at our ed committee. Also, I have a weekly call with all the North County Chamber CEOs and the North County Economic Development Managers. We all have a call every Thursday, and we have a topic every week. And not last week, but the week before, I facilitated a discussion about childcare and just the needs for that and the things that I was seeing. Like Julie said, childcare has always been an issue. I consider myself very lucky and privileged that it hasn't been an issue for me personally until right now. And so that I recognize my privilege with regard to that. And I recognize that that means that we need everybody to work together, because if people have been overlooked, and it's not just quality childcare, but it has to be affordable. All the things that you've all talked about, increased costs when you have more staff, when you have more cleaning, more PPE, everything increased costs. And when people have had their incomes and salaries, hold on just a moment, please. When they've had their salaries cut or their jobs have been lost, they don't have extra money. They don't have the additional funds to pay for an increased childcare cost. So I think that's great. But Nicole, I think you're right. The city has a number of recreational programs and facilities like Jim Porter Rec Center. They have the Linda Rhodes Center, which is adjacent. It's actually on school property, so there's some kind of weird rules with regard to that. There's a number of things. So the city should definitely be engaged. And I actually late last night thought, I should text Rob Anderson right now, but I didn't want to put him on the spot at the last second, since I didn't invite him in advance. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Because I do want to give our Assembly member, Tasha Boerner Horvath, a moment to talk to us about the state budget. There's been some pretty significant cuts proposed to education, and I'd like to hear from her about what's happening as we talk about education. So you are muted, Assembly member, it looks like.
There we go. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me. I'm Tasha Boerner Horvath. I'm up here in Sacramento. The Assembly budget's going to be revealed, I think, today or tomorrow, and we've been having a lot of very important and timely conversations about childcare. I don't know if you know, but the Women's Legislative Caucus, we're the largest caucus, and we're the only bipartisan caucus, and childcare is absolutely, it's our top issue. And I want to echo some of the things that I've heard on this call. One, I agree with Rachel. I think as the Women's Caucus, we are so concerned. We know when parents can't go back to work because they have a child at home that doesn't have proper childcare, they're not going to go back to work. And already we're seeing on unemployment insurance, a disproportionate number of people applying for unemployment insurance are women. And that is a concerning trend. I mean, I don't know if you guys know me very well, but I have a 9 and 12-year-old. And actually I came up to Sacramento because, I was like, well, if I'm going to go to Sacramento, I'm going to do stuff for childcare, on maternity leave, on advancing the causes that I think, create a more equal society. And childcare is at the heart of the nexus of all those things. But childcare is also at the nexus of how do we mitigate, or how do we lower to an acceptable level the risk during COVID-19. And that is just a difficult conversation. And I think you're grappling with it. I heard a reference, we have to be like Gumby. Absolutely, we have to be like Gumby. And so this is a very big, important topic we advocated as the Women's Caucus to the governor. We made sure that the 50 million that came in for childcare went to slots that were already there. We've been working on how do you repurpose slots if people, aren't using their childcare slots because they themselves aren't working. How do you make sure somebody else gets that? How do you make sure you can waive some of the income requirements because not everybody's working, so you have essential workers that are outside of that income cap, maybe just barely, and then how do you make sure the essential workers have childcare? So as you would have known, and I've received some emails from you, oh, you know what I want to do? And I can't figure out, Rachel, how do I see everybody at one time? I'm not seeing everybody at one time. I'm seeing one person at a time.
At the very top, if you're on a computer, are you on your computer or phone?
No, I don't have a computer with me. I have a phone.
I'm sorry, I don't know. And the last time I tried to help someone on their phone, I hung up the entire call, and it was the middle of my meeting.
We're not going to do that. I think I changed something.
It was horrible.
Hold on, let me.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, GoToMeeting's a little bit different than Zoom.
It is. And I had it, and then I changed something, and I'm not sure what I did.
So, you know what? I will look into that.
There we go. I got it. There we go.
All right, tell me how you did it later.
I think I have 5 people here. So, but I want to make sure I see your faces.
Okay.
So, the governor proposed a May revise. That's probably the budget when you guys are getting emails on how to advocate. You're looking at the May revise. The Assembly and the Senate do not agree with the governor's cuts to education and childcare. So we are working on a budget that moves it more towards what we had. And I want to introduce Sulima Balderas, who's on this call. She's my field rep for Vista. And Sulima has been working with me on some of the childcare slot issues because it's a very complicated issue. I come from local government, so it's different than coming from the education space, I feel. So I do want to say, if you'd like to get updates on childcare, on the budget, on education, get in contact with Sulima. Sulima, I don't know if in the chat you could share your contact information. And if you have any follow-ups to this call, please contact Sulima. We're up here, everything's boarded up. There are protests and riots and a curfew up here, so it's a little crazy. So going back to the budget. So the governor proposed a bunch of cuts. We don't agree with them. Generally what happens if you've been involved with state budgets is the governor proposes something, the Assembly has something, and the Senate has something, and everybody fights until they get to a consensus, and we have to pass it by June 15th. That's generally what happens. This year it's a little different. The governor had proposed a budget in January. This budget had a bunch of new programs in it, which we had not voted on or approved. And so when he did his May revise, he did the May revise based on that January budget with new things. And we said, well, we haven't voted on any of those new things. We're looking at somewhere between 30 and 40 billion dollars in cuts. We're not going to add new things. We want to protect the things we have voted on, and that is the expansion of childcare slots. It's some of the EITC stuff. So we're gonna continue working on that. And so the Assembly and the Senate this year are very, very close. The Senate announced their budget last week. They voted on their budget last week. Our Assembly proposal, we have twice as many members, so it takes twice as long to get a consensus among our members. But childcare it is up there with that. So we are protecting the slots from last year. We're expanding them for essential workers. And what I love to hear today is not, it's when you're looking at of $130 billion budget, when you're looking somewhere between 30 and $50 billion in cuts, it's not particularly helpful to just say, don't cut. If we cannot cut, we'll not cut. But sometimes I get the feeling that there are things where if we tweak a policy, where do you need flexibility? Where do you need that? And then you get something out of it, and it doesn't cost maybe very much or maybe nothing at all, but it's a policy switch. So one of the first things that came out as we were opening and closing the economy was our opening and closing regulations on movement, I should better say, to stop the spread of the virus. was we went down to this 1 in 8 childcare ratio. That means you have to hire way more staff. But if we went to 1 in 12, or do we do 1 in 15? Is there a different ratio that would make that money go further? Those are the types of things. And you guys know your areas better than I do. So if you want to share what are those flexibilities, I can't guarantee I can get any of them through. But absolutely, I'm willing to fight for it because I'm a mom too, right? Just like Rachel, I understand what this burden is. And I'm very, very worried that all the strides that women have made in the workplace will be set back 1 or 2 decades by this virus. And we know that's directly related to education and childcare. So I'm so happy to be here today. What I've been working on the educational side is I've been involved because I believe women don't go back to work until at least at the elementary school level, we find a way for kids to go back to school 5 days a week, right? So I've been into conversations with all the school districts in my district, which is Vista, Oceanside, Carlsbad, Encinitas Union, and San Diego, about how we could do that. Because the access also to distance learning and technology, you can, aside is how effective it is at teaching, how can you do it? There is a path to bringing back elementary school kids 5 days a week. It is a very narrow path. It's going to require a lot of people to make a lot of compromises, and clearly not everybody's going to be happy with it. So we're in conversations with CDPH and then the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the local school districts, County Office of Education, and the county to see, could we work into those school opening requirements for elementary? I don't think we could solve the middle and high school, but I'm less concerned about high school students being home a day or half day alone than I am with a kindergartner or a second grader, or even potentially a fourth grader where the parent has to work and that fourth grader being left home alone. So I have to say I'm making a value judgment there, and that might be something we don't agree on, but I'm really concerned about the K through, I think it's K through 5 in Vista, and other places in the district K through 6, but elementary. So we have a narrow path. It's like gonna be pulling teeth to get it. And it does require a lot of people, like it would require all kids to be masked. It would require all teachers to have N95 masks. So wherever you got N95 masks, because they're generally N95 masks are not available except for healthcare workers and first responders. So wherever you got them from, let me know, because we're probably gonna try to put some extra money into getting those masks. But it would require all kids to be masked. A lot of parents don't want their kids to be masked. Some special need kids, like my daughter, struggle with masks. And I do hear that's a problem. But if you do have everybody wearing masks and you have a very aggressive testing, tracking, tracing program, you can actually set up, if somebody does, is exposed to COVID, that they get tested early, that if they're tested and they're positive, you maybe move that one class to distance learning, but you don't shut down the entire school again or the entire district, which is what happened. You had this Cascade case, many of you know this. San Diego Unified had some confirmed cases because most of the cases in our district have been in the city of San Diego. You have, San Diego Unified shut down, and so all the districts shut down. And so we can't have that again. That's not gonna work for us, like, to do that. And so I think now that we know more about the virus, it's more about how do we lower risk to an acceptable level. It's never going to be a no risk proposition. And the people who have a lower risk threshold than that will probably do online learning. And that's probably what we're going to have to do, is going to have some people opt into a digital only or a distance learning only platform. And then you'll have kind of stricter regulation of what's going on in the elementary school. And that's probably that. So there is a path. That's the good news. Otherwise, you are looking at what Rachel was saying. Do you go back to Monday, Tuesday, 3 days a week distance learning, or a Monday, Wednesday distance learning, Thursday, Friday in school? And that, I don't know about you. I don't know one mom who could do that. I don't know one mom who has a job, unless they're teleworking, and that is a certain type of skilled professional job, who could do that. I've tried to work with the teachers and the school districts to say, what about morning, afternoon? What if we just did morning, afternoon? That, at least I know people who work part-time and they can work 9 to 12, right? Like, I don't know anybody who works 3 days a week. You know, that's not a flexibility that we have built into our system. So we're working on that, and so that will have an effect on, you know, hopefully what you're able to do. If we could get those regulations for elementary, that might be something that helps you bring back kids at a larger number. The thing about the elementary proposal that we're working on with our districts now is, and I don't know, and Vista hasn't committed to doing it, so we're just really in the conversation phases. I think we have to have a plan by July. I think some districts are coming out, like I had Cardiff School. Unfortunately, they went out and they announced their kids are going to come back only 2 days a week. And everybody freaked out, which is also Cardiff. So like, I was like, you guys can all actually manage that. So you all need to chill out. But anyways, that was too early because I don't think we know. Our testing, tracking, tracing protocols from the county are still being developed. I think the goal for that is probably somewhere around end of June, July, of having that really sophisticated. Every model that I've seen has shown a second wave coming in the fall. And so one of the things when we're talking about being Gumby and being flexible and being nimble, it means we may start out one way and have to work and go to this different, you know, as the surge hits, do we like increase the regulations, which I assume will happen. They're going to be, I assume in the fall, this is my assumption, it's not fact, but it's an assumption, that you're going to see a surge in the fall. So you're going to have a shutdown of some sort in the fall, maybe not complete as it was this last time. And then the release again. So you're going to see this oscillating opening and closing. That is really hard for you guys to handle. That's really hard for schools to handle. So the more you plan for the different models and the more we're able to communicate, okay, when we get to this trigger, we know we do this plan. When we get to this trigger, we know we do this plan. And we build that into people's kind of the way we're going to do school this next year and the way we're going to do childcare this next year is the most important. So I've covered a lot of things on what we're doing, and I don't want to take up too much time because I do want to hear what are the things in state law. And I think Julie, you were saying this, that like we allocate money and then it doesn't show up in our district. And this happened with ACES last year. You know, we've been working with the county and pushing them. You know, I don't know what your political affiliation is, but Lorena Gonzalez is probably one of the most effective advocates for childcare. She understands childcare slots. So she's fighting for that. You know, she's married to Nathan Fletcher, so he's fighting for that. So you have a lot of, you know, really, you know, good ways of of trying to get that money. But it just seems that our district gets left out because we're not the city of San Diego. We're, you know, even though we do have Oceanside, which is the third largest city in the county. So I would love to hear from you how I can best advocate for you, because I think we're all share the same commitment to without childcare, without, you know, at least K through 5 going back to school 5 days a week. It's going to be the moms that are left on the hook. There's some dads, but it's mostly the moms. And that keeps women out of the workforce. That means the entire year, women lose out on career advancement. Women lose out on those better jobs. Women lose out about getting the experience. And I don't know about you. Those are not things I'm willing to do right now. I mean, maybe I'm going to have to do them, but I feel like I'm not going to do them without putting up a fight. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you if you have specific questions. As I said, the Senate budget is out. The Assembly budget has not been released. They're very close to each other. I've gotten some high-level information about the budget. I don't sit on the Education Budget Subcommittee, but I am happy to take those things back to the Education Budget Chair.
Thank you. I think I saw Julie with her hand up.
So I'm going to answer the political affiliation question first. I am an independent that supports everyone. If you're elected, if you're working to make this community better, I support you. And that's just kind of the way I take it. I just refuse to get involved in the right-left argument. So you're going to see me posting positive things about everyone or absolutely blasting anyone if I disagree. So I can tell you exactly what to do with childcare ratios. 1 to 12 is the same as 1 to 8. If we had a 1-to-12 ratio in Title V, we would take the extra person and we would be able to give teachers prep time. We would be able to better serve our classrooms. We wouldn't hire any less people, but having a better ratio. Reduce the impact.
So Julie, so right now it's 1 in 8 or 1 in 12 for you?
So right now we're at 1 to 8, but if we had the ability to go to 1 to 12 at times, we would be able to give teachers prep time when kids are mellow and playing. We wouldn't have to bring in extra staff for prep time, and therefore we would be able to pay teachers more.
Okay.
Reduce the impact of regulatory agencies would be the second thing. We sometimes have a visit from licensing, from the Quality Cares California, from the fire department, 3 child protective service workers, and another somebody comes in. So literally we'll have 6 or 7 people in our facilities at any one time. If there is an inspection for Head Start, we've got one for state preschool, we've got one for Title 22, we've got one for the fire department. Literally combine all of those regulatory visits into one so that every agency relies on one set of criteria, so that we don't have agencies in our center. Like, we had community care licensing in our center 78 times last year doing this, that, and the other. And we're a tier 5 rated, our sites are tier 5 rated QCC. So we're the best of the best. Reduce data collection. Who uses it? Nobody. Nobody's taking all of the different things that we're entering into the various software systems that we're required to manage. 11 software systems we manage to run our programs because we have so many different funding sources. So reduce that data collection. Unless districts are really going to use it, why do it? Reduce it to what we actually use. And then in Quality Counts California, this is my final point. In Quality Counts California, infant toddler teachers are required to have the same qualifications as preschool teachers. So an infant toddler teacher with a 1-to-4 ratio has to have a bachelor's degree in order for us to get our rating, which means that the infant toddler staff with a bachelor's degree, if we can get them there, are making $18 an hour, whereas a preschool teacher with a different, it's horrible. Preschool teacher with a different ratio, right now Children's Paradise is paying between 21 and 24, and it's the ratio issue. If you reduce the infant toddler education requirements to on the rating matrix, what's going to happen is those people who give proper care and supervision and really care for the social, emotional 5 senses, a bachelor's degree is not necessary. So
I agree with you. I agree with you. And we're gonna have a lot of people out of work, and a lot of people need to come back in different hours because of childcare. So Salima, you're writing this all down. Julie, if you could, these are all really good points. I'm not sure I could do all of them. The ratio is something I've talked to Lorena Gonzalez about, and I think we could get the Women's Caucus to support, because we know that would be an immediate relief. I'm not sure about the inspectors. Getting the number of inspector visits down. I mean, you could make an argument during COVID, you want to limit the exposure to the children to the number of outside personnel. So that would be the argument, I think, during COVID to do that. I think it's a longer term process to whittle down all the interagency things. We see this in restaurants too. It's kind of, you need one lead agency on childcare, it seems. And that seems like longer term. And then you brought up another point that I thought was really good, and then I need to explore.
The data?
Data collection and
Data collection, that might be statutory, and that's going to be really hard. People want to, I don't know what people think they're going to do with the data. I agree with you completely. I just, that's going to be a bigger fight on data because people relate that to transparency.
Yeah.
So, but the last point was?
It was the infant toddler staff qualification.
Yes, that is something we could relax that, because you could imagine in a state of emergency, you relax that because so many more people will need to have, when your workforce is going to look really different, right? Right now, we have something like 18% unemployed, and a majority of those, or more than a majority, are women. It's not equal. It's not proportionate to the population. And so there are going to be people that will need to come back, and do you need to have a bachelor's, or is an AA fine,
Really good moms make amazing infant toddler staff members. I mean, what you're looking for is a mother who reads, talks, and sings to her child. In an infant center, when you can do that and provide exceptional personal care routines, that's where we want to start. And a lot of times, just because you have a bachelor's degree, most of the time, it's a young girl that's never had children. And so we're then putting somebody with a bachelor's degree in a classroom with infants when they've never had one of their own. So if you relax the staff qualifications for infant toddler staff members, we're going to be able to hire the mothers who can't go back to work. Then they can start a career in education. So what happens is I
get it. Yeah, you got it. I got it. It's great. What qualification would they need to have though? They're going to want them to have some qualification. I agree with you that moms are the best.
Yeah.
But often we become the best because we learn on our own children. So they would have to have some qualification. So if you could think of what that qualification would it be an AA, or would it be an online certificate? Would it be some sort of licensing? Like, what would be the thing that they would have to show that they have some level of CPR and, et cetera?
So they would have to have CPR, first aid. They would have to have the mandated reporter, all of those basic trainings. There are 12 of them. But a children's center permit process is what we should go to for the infant toddler teachers. And an associate teacher permit is perfect for an infant toddler teacher. What that requires is that they continue taking units. It gives them a certain amount of time to become a qualified teacher. And then what our teams can do is we can support them in that educational process. As we've done that, we literally have people getting their AA degrees. We have a guy that we took on, he was homeless when he started working for us with no units, and he is going to be getting his AA degree this spring because we coach them through the training. A child care center is able to put somebody on the pathway to a career in education. So if we can put infant toddler staff members on that child center permit process, then it's going to give us a well-educated staff, but it's also going to start training up that educational employee population that public school districts have. I have districts stealing my staff all the time. I've got teachers that are getting their bachelor's degrees and then going through their credentialing process and working for Poway Unified, Escondido Unified, Vista Unified. Makes me crazy because as soon as I get them ready, then districts steal them, which is awesome for my team. But that's how we should work together collaboratively as a team. We can get people started in a career of education. We can support them, train them, encourage them, get them there. They can care for children 0 to 5 and learn, and then they can take those hands-on practices and that social emotional development and support for children and realize that just because a child goes to kindergarten, first, second, and third grade doesn't mean they still don't need all of that. Children need that even when they're in high school. So it's going to create a better workforce for our educational districts as well.
So I don't want to stop, but we have just a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure that if Sherry or Matt or anyone else on the call had a question for you, Assembly Member.
Yeah. Just one clarification. I didn't need to know your political affiliation. I said I didn't know what yours was because, sometimes certain individuals can be more controversial than others. So I was just saying Lorena Gonzalez is a very big advocate. So yeah, not at all. I don't need to know your political affiliation. I'm not asking you that. Anyways, I should have said that.
Well, I want to make
thank
sure
you for sharing.
that, Julie, that you get, if you're not already, which you probably are not, if you're not connected with the Assembly Member's office, we can make sure Salima's information is in the chat, and then I also can send a follow-up email for you both. But then I just, want to really be mindful of everyone's time. It's almost 9, so I wanted to see if there was anything else we wanted to ask or discuss in the last couple of minutes. I do know that Superintendent Doyle did share with us at the Education Committee that they're hopeful to have an announcement around the beginning of July, or a decision by the beginning of July of what the fall will look like for school. I think these are great topics of ways to move forward and things that we can do to help. The Chamber, we want to continue to connect people and convene great minds so that we can solve our community's challenges together. And so I just want to thank you all for joining this morning. Are there any other last thoughts?
Or Donna or Sherry, or Sayat, do you want to say anything specific related to the topics that we haven't covered that you'd like to just flag for us?
No, thank you. It was very useful because I'm an artistic director of Incintas Ballet. I teach kids, And the hardest part right now is many kids, they got, they're at home, and I see the physical exercise affect very much. And this is my main concern. And what I've been doing right now, we're planning our summer intensive, and we cannot go inside of the building, but we can do outside activities. Tomorrow, this is the first time one of the parents asked me to come in the yard. They have a big yard, so there'll be a big distance. So they have to see own teacher, not only online. So I'll try to teach tomorrow. We'll see how it goes, because many kids, they got depressed, and I understand parents, and plus what I've been doing, we're planning to do our summer intensive. So I contacted to make children more creativity. I contacted different countries, and while at home, we made an experiment. We teach children dance of the world. We learn Spanish, Aragonska Jota, Jewish dance, Spanish dance, Hungarian dance. So, and plus every child, depends on where you've come from, you have to give a lecture about the history of the dance costume. So on that way, give the kids how the beautiful world is. So this is my major problem, to get all the kids happy. This is what I want to do it. But otherwise, hope everything will get back. It will take time, yes. I know, but we do our best.
So on that note, we reached out to the governor's office because we noticed there was no guidance coming down on the individualized enrichment lessons, for lack of a better term, for the ballet, the karate, the music lessons. I had my kid's old music studio emailed, said, we're open for one-to-one lessons. And I was like, actually, you're not. So that did not, it had to do with retail opening for curbside. I was like, yeah, so there has been no guidance on that individual side. We reached out to the governor's office, and on Friday, we connected the governor's office to the county to make sure the county had the proper guidance so we could open those. Because it seems if you could gather, with five people at a restaurant with certain safety conditions, you can bring it back in a one-to-one music lesson. That seems to be a reasonable, or a ballet lesson. That seems to be a reasonable thing. So that guidance hopefully will be coming in the next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
With that, I want to just thank everyone again for being here this morning. Thank you for the gift of your time and your knowledge and expertise. I hope you'll join us again. We meet the first Tuesday of the month at 8 for coffee and conversations. In the past, we've just had kind of a general chat, but this time felt like it was great to have a specific topic to discuss and some experts. So thank you again for being here. It's nice to meet those of you who haven't met in person, and I hope that someday soon we can meet in person. And I hope you all have a great day. I've put my contact information in the chat, so feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions or if you'd like to engage. Well, this is the beginning. I think we'll be engaging on this topic a lot more as we continue. So thank you all so much. Have a really great day. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2020.
Yes. Bye.